even though I've never experienced anything close to it, happen often. So I don't know if it's just par for the course in Silicon Valley to have
Mm.
$10 million wires, but certainly not for
No.
me.
So how much did you actually win in Beast Games?
So the total sum, including the 2,000 from Vegas, the 10 million from the grand prize, plus 4,242 from the phone bribe or the $1 million bribe. So at 10 million, 6,000,
Something.
242.
Now, going back, winning that amount of money, and speaking with a psychologist, was there ever an amount of guilt that you felt getting this money, knowing that someone else had to lose?
Yeah, I mean, of course. And, I also think about all the friends and people who helped me get there. And it's like, oh, like how do I pay them back? How do I pay it forward? Why was it me and not them? I don't know if they call it survivor's guilt or, but yeah, I felt that, and it's not fun.
Could you split any money at all? Were you allowed to be like, hey, you really helped me out. Here's like 20 grand.
It was in our contract that we weren't allowed to, and then in certain challenges they'd kind of reiterate that. It's like, by the way, like you can't make any deals. You can't say, hey, if you help me get to this, I will give you 10% if I win.
See, that's what I was thinking when it was down to the three of you with a $10 million prize. Like you could have each walked away with, $3.333
Yeah.
million, which is nearly $5 million. Just getting up there, and everyone could have left happy. But you're saying you couldn't have negotiated out some sort of split?
Yeah, there was no negotiation, and I think, I mean, if we could have, we probably would have. With those three people. I don't think there was anybody there who's like, no, I have to get this. But yeah, it's there was no ability to negotiate a split, and I think there's some pretty severe clawbacks too in the kind of the agreement we signed if they find that someone is splitting after the fact.
So for Beast Games, did you have a strategy going in? If someone's competing in Beast Game Season 2, what do you think are the things that they should be practicing?
Yeah, I think you got to figure out what kind of game you want to play. Do you want to stay true to your values or do you want to play to win? Um, I think you can do both. I think I did both. But like I would just get crystal clear on how you want to play. Two, you got to step up your social game. It's a very social game where you need to make friends. You need to earn trust. People need to be able to trust you. And the more genuine, obviously, the better. And have a number in mind. Like if there's a number, like because you're gonna get opportunities to bribe. And you think about this, like so many people.
That's crazy. Are they going to have the same amount? Like, there's no way the number for the money can keep getting bigger as the seasons go on. There's just no way.
Turn down,
especially with the 10
$100,000
million.
in that first episode.
That's
And you see
crazy.
4 people turn down $1 million. So there's gonna be opportunities where you can take money.
Like game
to either
show
eliminate
inflation.
people or not eliminate people. I'd figure out what that number is and how important it is to you.
What was your number?
My number was 1.5 million.
How did you come to that number?
My wife and I were talking about it, and to be honest, I think it was a number that we figured would never get presented to us. So it's kind of like this thing that, yeah, we have a number, but we're never gonna have to worry about it. Because like I wanted to go all the way, and when I signed up and I told my wife, hey, I want to be in Beast Games, like it's gonna be an awesome platform to talk about Lucas's disease, and she looks at me, she goes, if you're gonna be gone for a handful of weeks, you better win this damn thing. And like that totally shifted my mindset. Like,
And he did. And he did.
Talk about Lucas and win this thing. But having the thought of winning when there's 1,000 people is just so hard. It's just for me, it was like, okay, I just got to survive. I'm on the platforms. I need to get the city.
What's up,
I'm in the
IDK?
city, I need to get to the island. I'm in the island. I need to get to the top 10. And once you kind of got there, it's like, okay, I got a shot.
So it was at the top 10 when you first realized, okay, like I can actually win Beast Games.
It was probably right before the top 10 on the elimination train when it was the top 21. And once I learned the rule set of the elimination train, I kind of go, I feel pretty safe. Like I feel like there's an 80% chance I'm going to get through. And so I was able to see myself in
That's
the top
pretty
10
early.
where I kind of go, man, if I get to the top 10, I have a 1 in 10 chance of winning.
That's way
And I think
that's way earlier than I would have thought that he could expect that he could win. Like that's still pretty early on the train episode.
I've built very good social capital and good relationships, and I think I could do a great job. Like, I can win this thing.
Do you think it's more effective to be a leader or a follower?
Great question.
IDK says 10 million is diabolical. What's more diabolical is how much they're going to take out in taxes. He said he doesn't know yet, but the fact that it's even in the conversation that half of it could go to taxes, that's crazy. Like, what?
Question. I think you need to
Half
be able
of
to
it?
be both. I think there's times where you need to step up and lead. I did that more in kind of private settings, like on our episode 6 on the physical challenge. I would step up as a leader, a vocal leader for a small group. There's other times where I think blending in is better. Like on the elimination train, like to be a leader there was like the last thing I wanted to do. I thought there was no upside. I feel like I'd have to eliminate myself or like my buddy Patrick. I didn't want to do that. So I think it's kind of circumstantial.
It seems like the people that all rejected $1 million, they
What's
ended
up,
making it
Brantley?
pretty far in the games, and they were looked pretty favorably amongst the other competitors. The only thing that was weird is that as soon as it went 51-49, as though it was advantageous for them to flip on them, like sharks, like piranhas, they would
I feel like he played a perfect game, like he just described, like when to blend into the background versus when to step forward. But the thing I noticed is he never stepped all the way forward. He was never like the leader. If you watch the show, like he played that line perfectly of like, if I'm not going to be the leader, he was right behind the leader. That way the leader could take the fall if people decided to target him.
they would just be like, "Oh yeah, and then you did this, and that was a jerk move, and we can't believe this," and everyone's like showing that they're better than the other person.
It's weird. In the games, there's really fresh memories. Like people remember what happened yesterday in the last challenge, and there's also like this unspoken reciprocity. So think about the $1 million bribes. You know, 3 out of the 4 of them made it out of the cubes: Dino, Tawana, and Jeremy. Then the next thing is the helicopter rides. Tawana gets selected for the first helicopter. Dino gets selected for the second helicopter. So there's one captain left, and now we have the 110 coins. Jeremy gets 103 of the 110 coins. Like, so like people are always
You know what moment was the best to be hidden or social? Yeah, he knew exactly. I mean, he kind of nailed it in that regard.
wanting to give back to these people who step up.
He kind of nailed
But
it.
then again, in the helicopter, you see that that reciprocity didn't last long, where people were stabbing Jeremy in the back in a matter of minutes because he didn't do what they wanted him to do.
I felt so bad for him
Yeah.
in that moment because he was one of my favorite players. Same with Dino. Just turning down $1 million like that in front of all these people takes so much control. And then to see people now look at that negatively is like, oh, but yeah, he did that, but this.
It-
I was shocked.
I was shocked too. It was one of those things where during that episode I was going around and trying to tell people the math. Like, hey, we have to give the coins to somebody because if we don't, our odds of getting on a helicopter decrease because this helicopter is going to go away empty. So that was my mindset. I wasn't trying to go around and say, hey, give these coins to Jeremy, because obviously I knew that would also put a target on my back. So like I didn't hear all these kind of talk about you got to bring a woman on or this, that, and the other until we got into the helicopter, and I'm like happy, and like Jeremy looks at me as like, no, this is not good. Like this did not end well. And he kind of sat there and he kind of led a prayer, and it was like one of these things where I'm like, oh, I didn't realize how badly people were coming at you. And so it was the first couple days on the island were interesting because there was some bad blood, especially to Jeremy, but also to me because I was involved with it.
And that's because Jeremy would not select a woman to join him on the helicopter.
Yeah, and he did. He selected Daphne 976, but it was one of these things where he chose 2 people first. He chose Gage 974 and myself, and then he asked us to choose people, and I didn't choose a woman.
Why didn't you choose a woman?
I don't know. I chose my best friend at the time, Patrick 930, and he's the guy who
You
brought
watched the
me
show?
and
Yeah,
these
I
guys
watched the whole
out in
show.
hallway in Vegas. And I was like, hey, like he chose me. It's my time to choose him.
It was really good.
Um,
I enjoyed it.
yeah, and in retrospect, I would have taken a lot off of Jeremy if I would have. I would have chosen Maddie 852, a dear friend of mine. But at least I made that episode exciting, I
Yeah.
guess. And what's this little bottle?
Oh my God, these are so good. So this is called Magic Mind, and they started sending us this a few months ago. Absolutely love it. And we actually reached out to see if they would sponsor our podcast because we like it that much, and they've agreed to sponsor our podcast, which is so cool. But basically, it's an energy focus shot, like for a little bit more.
Have you seen Prison Break? I've seen the first.
Every single.
Seen the first
podcast,
season
like
of
dial
Prison
it in
Break.
a little bit more. There's a little caffeine in this, so it's not like so much that you're going to be wired afterwards, but it's just enough to give you a bit of an extra boost. And I take these with us, no joke, everywhere we go because you could take them through TSA.
Oh, beautiful.
And it was actually a bit of an accident. I just packed these in my backpack, went through TSA, and then on the other side, I was like, oh wow, they never confiscated it. Like this is really good because it's under the liquid limit. And now I've just been taking them everywhere. And then Jack and I now trade. I bring these, he brings protein bars. And we'll trade. I'll be like, I'll give you a Magic Mind for a protein bar because I bring extras.
They taste great. It's not too much to where you start feeling jittery. And it's perfect because you can also drink these later. So if we have a podcast at like 8 p.m., you're not going to drink a coffee at 7 p.m. in preparation for the podcast because then you're going to be up until 2 a.m. But this right here, I've had success drinking it later in the day. And it's great. Yeah, just hones your focus.
Still get to sleep.
Yeah, it's not a lot of caffeine. It's just a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try it
So
out.
we have a link down below in the description. If you want to try this out, it's really good. It tastes like a bit of a matcha flavor. It's delicious. So again, the link is down below in the description. We got an exclusive offer with the Iced Coffee Hour. They were kind enough to say yes to sponsoring us just because we genuinely like their product. So the link is down below in the description for anyone who's interested.
This is super good.
I told you.
I thought it was gonna be like more like vegetable-y. Like that's how.
It tastes like
that's such-
probiotic-y, huh?
Yeah, such a
What games do you play? I play a lot of different games. Yeah. Right now we're doing a playthrough of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. I'm just taking a little bit of a break this evening. And then what else have we played? We played Avowed recently. Wasn't like totally my cup of tea. I played Civ 7. But funny enough, with Civilization 7, I was having a lot of issues with all my social medias when I would upload videos of it. It would get flagged for different reasons. So I don't know what the problem was there, but there was a lot of issues with that. And so I had to stop posting Civ 7 content until they get that sorted out. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff coming up that we play too. I'm all over the map with what I play. Pretty much anything, I enjoy. I definitely lean towards like RPGs and stuff like that. Oh yeah, Call of Duty. Play a lot of Call of Duty. A lot of ranked play. We got up to platinum, and I was trying to get into diamond, and I stopped right around when season 2 started for Black Ops.
unique flavor.
Yeah, but it's like the ones you go to the grocery
Yeah,
store.
we
And
play
it's
everything.
like $8 for like a little health and wellness shot.
Oblivion, yeah, I love Oblivion.
$8.
I can
but-
taste
Love
the
that.
passion fruit. Like
Hoping they make a
mouthful.
remake of
Sweet.
Oblivion.
That's
We might be
cool.
able to get him to send you some.
Yeah, we'll actually give you a few on the road. I just
Awesome.
like them.
Yeah,
They're
that'd
really
be great
good.
for the
Oh, for the ruck.
Yeah,
Yes.
perfect.
How much was luck versus skill in the game?
Season 1 of Beast Games had a lot of luck and a lot of chance, but I think less than most people think. So, are you guys kind of familiar with how we got our jersey numbers?
No, could you explain it?
So, I was number 831, and it wasn't randomly assigned. It was back in Vegas in episode 0. On the third challenge, we had to go get our flags, and whatever flag you go get and are able to kind of successfully capture is your jersey number. And so, there was actually 1,100 flags. So the people who went and got flags 1 through a couple hundred were the ones, hey, I got to go out there first. I got to get this flag. It's mine to get. Oh, I'm going to beat you. And in the first episode in Beast Games on Prime, you had to have someone self-eliminate your row. There was 3 rows that did not have anybody self-eliminate. It was the first row, the second row, and the fourth row. And these were the numbers kind of 1 through, let's call it 1 through 170. Like these were all these type A aggressive people to go-getters, where the rows that kind of got up to the 800s, 900s, and 1000s were the helpers who help people get their flags, and the more kind of altruistic people who needed support. Which
Interesting.
you'd think those are the people who would eventually self-sacrifice. So I think there's a little bit more nuance to the chance. But yeah, when you really think about, I think through all the things that had to happen for me to get to episode 10. Oh my gosh, so much luck.
What challenge was the most difficult? Like physically and then emotionally.
Yeah, physically, hands down was the monster truck pull. I mean, we had 8 people pulling a
You're chill, dude.
12,000
Thanks,
pound monster
IDK.
truck.
Appreciate that, man.
I did
It's a
not
chill
expect
stream.
that. In B City, we have this giant billboard that would kind of give us like clues to what these challenges would be. And there was it was like 19, I felt like it was 1950s kind of art themed, and it had a big monster truck, and it said, our red light is your green light. And we're like, oh my gosh. So we get out there and I see this monster truck and I'm like, oh, they're going to put on the brakes, which is a red light. That means that's when we're going to walk green light. That means, so we're practicing doing red light, green light, like how to stop. And then they kind of turn us on and go, nope, you're going to pull this monster truck. And we pulled it for like 25 minutes. I literally, when I got done, like they almost called a medic for me. Like I was in like tunnel vision. I'd never done anything that strenuous in years. And it was,
That's
it was
crazy.
wild.
Pulling
it
that whole
didn't
monster truck.
look that
Feeling sick? Oh man, feel better.
I'm not gonna lie, as a
Oh,
viewer,
yeah.
it didn't
As
look
you're
that bad.
laying in bed
And so-
watching the
yeah,
show,
eating
be
a
like,
pita chips.
I can
and
do
hummus.
that. That's
No,
easy.
I'm just saying, when I was watching it, I was like, okay, these guys, they're falling over a little bit, like they're stumbling. They look fit. And so it was surprising to me because it also didn't seem like it was going on for 25 minutes. And like if you push a car in neutral, it's not that hard. But I can understand. I didn't know it was 12,000 pounds of a monster
It's a whole
truck. So,
monster truck,
yes,
dude.
that does sound very challenging. But as a viewer, I'm sure some people, they know what I'm thinking right
Jack's
now.
an armchair
But
critic.
but I didn't think it was going to be that hard either. To your point, Jack, it's like, but once they said go and we started
I
pulling,
feel like
with
I
the
get what
truck,
he's saying. I feel like
this thing is hardly moving.
the fact that you have several people like that, like it shows right here, like the fact that you have this many people like this, it fools you into thinking it's gonna be easier because you have so many people. And like he said, like when a car's in neutral, like if a car's in neutral, it's pretty easy for like 2 to 3 people to push. So I could kind of see it.
And then you see the other team who's like 20 feet ahead of us, and they're huge. These are all like, you have a ex-college Division I college football player, you have an ex-college rugby player, like you have some just hosses over there. And I'm like,
I can't believe that
"How do you
episode
do
was
this?"
crazy. The fact that they won that.
Fortunately, we had a lot of good teamwork. We never gave up. We had a lot of brains. So it was physics that actually helped us win, is getting over that hump with both wheels. But that was so fun. That whole episode were filmed in one night. So we did that. We waited an hour. We filmed kind of the flags. We waited an hour, and then we did the dead hang. And it was one of my favorite nights.
How late did that go?
I think we probably wrapped around 5 a.m.
Wow.
So if the guy's hanging on the thing at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Oh yeah, and and once you get into the games, like we film a lot at night, so you're sleeping in. We're always getting 8 hours of sleep if you want it, but it is so fun to film at night because just knowing, and I think about like everybody's sleeping, and here we are doing things that you can never imagine a grown man doing.
That
It
is
was
crazy.
It was so fun.
So what was the most mentally challenging?
I would say episode 3, the cubes, was super challenging, and part of it is like it was kind of early on, and we had one of you will get eliminated out of your group of 3, and my group of 3 was me, 808, and 204, and 204 Chris, a great friend of mine. We're like, oh my gosh, how's this gonna?
Say it.
See, look, if we just sat down for a couple hours, we could come up with
Yeah,
that
but I
stuff.
would never guess a horse. Never.
Me
They
neither.
probably had every animal.
Oh, and they had multiple dogs. Like many people asked for puppies. One Landry asked for. She said, "Hey, I'm going to eliminate, but I just want to have a princess party," and like they brought all the princess and prince gear. Like, how did you have that? So I would love to see the BTS on that room.
My guess is they had to have.
Somebody put in the comments, and I think they're exactly right. I think it just has to do with they had an Amazon warehouse nearby, and they could just direct stream stuff from there.
Someone at like a Walmart and a Target nearby, and they call in, we need 5 Monopoly sets.
I think it's got.
Aside from like the bigger stuff, like the animals and things like that, but anything they had to buy, it probably just came from the Amazon warehouse.
Be that. There's no way they
There's no way
have it
they're
all
buying it.
already ready to go in a room.
And then just return it massively.
I mean,
Or like an Amazon
I'm gonna
warehouse.
have to ask Jimmy and see.
Because
like-
there's sizes too. Like, do you have like a princess outfit in every size? Like, would you have it in gram size?
Right.
As well?
Or Jack's size, the plus size.
But it was so quick. Like that's the thing that is like I think a lot of it was there because they got this stuff so quickly.
So seeing so many people behave in so many different ways. You have Landry, who's willing to self-eliminate as long as she has her princess party. You have other people that are unwilling to play the game and by any means necessary continue advancing. Other people take bribes, other people don't take bribes. What did you learn about human nature participating in Beast Games?
I'd say overall, very optimistic about the future of humanity. I mean, I think I did not expect to connect with that many people, and I did not expect like 4 people to turn down $1 million because 60 people chose them to represent them. I did not expect people to kind of play hard, but play with integrity. And I just didn't expect to forge these friendships. It's one thing to like, you're in the games, you forge these friendships, and it's like, oh my gosh, this is great. This works for now. But after the games, I'm still friends with these people. We still keep in contact. Um,
That's good.
so it's kind of like,
I'm
you
glad to
think
hear
back
that.
some of your jobs. You kind of go, oh yeah, I was really good friends with this person while I worked with them, and then you guys go to separate jobs, and now you hardly talk.
It's interesting because I feel like through talking with you and as well as watching you on Beast Games, one thing that I feel like helped you out a lot is that your actions are very divorced from your emotions. In fact, as a viewer, it was even hard to tell your emotions at times. Like sometimes, there was a little sympathy, sometimes a little bit of this, sometimes a little bit of that, but it was never too far deviated from just like a cool and collected state of being. Do you think
True.
that was one of the main contributors to your success?
I noticed that too. Do you play poker?
I do not.
Don't play poker.
Don't
You had
play.
a good poker face.
Yeah, I mean, I think, don't ride the highs too high or the lows too low. You kind of like, Rudyard Kipling's If. Like, and also, I think being a father of a rare disease special needs kid definitely teaches me how to listen better. Because I mean, I really need to figure out what he's telling me and what he's feeling, and also try to feel with him. So, like, being a dad of Lucas, you kind of go, gosh, do I try to fix him or do I try to connect with him? And the more I connect with people, I think it really benefited me in the games.
Was there ever a moment where you lost your cool or you fought with other competitors?
Oh yeah. I mean, it didn't get too heated, but in episode 8, when there was $1 million, we each had an opportunity to kind of go to the pyramid and take as much money as we could. My friend JC566 took $650,000, and it was
That
just,
was
from
insane.
my experience with him, he was a friend. I didn't expect it from him, and so I kind of called him out, or at least shared my experience with him, that night and the next day, and it was 2 grown men having a heated conversation. Again, like I believe that maximum growth comes between the pinnacle between support and challenge, and this was kind of a poke in the chest to a friend. And it was a good dialogue, but it wasn't like, no fists were going to be thrown. At the time, I was heated. Once you watch it, you realize, again, it's a game. He had an opportunity to not eliminate anybody and to take the money. And again, whether he pays down his entire mortgage or he pays down some of it, or he gets rid of all of his debt and now he can put money into kind of a 529 plan for his kids, like, good on him. Good on him. And then
Yeah.
afterward, he kind of threw the alliance under the bus. And I think that's what kind of was like, man, come on, what are you doing? You just got your money, and now you're taking out on us. Like, what's this about?
It was
Yeah, that
interesting
was
to see a little bit of a switch though
crazy.
in his behavior. Like
Oh,
you
yeah.
said, before and after he got his rewards.
Yeah. So, but I have to look back at it. It's a game. And I think in season 2, you'll see a lot more play like
Yeah.
that.
But see, it's interesting you say here it's a game, but then also I see Jeremy not taking, and Dino, the $1 million. To which your point, it is a game. Taking $1 million at that point and turning it down in episode 2. I saw Ben Shapiro's reaction to it. He got very heated. Did you see his video?
Yeah.
He got very upset that no one took the $1 million because he says at that point it's a positive expected value. When you look at your chance of winning across all these people and you're offered 1/5 of the prize pool, it would be dumb not to take that money.
It was the expected value was like $1 million
Significant.
for anyone rejecting $1 million in that moment. But then if you did the math in terms of the amount of contestants left over and the prize pool at the end, if you evenly distribute that, it was like $5,000.
Yeah.
So it's $5,000 per chance or $1 million in your pocket. And everyone rejected that, which is insane.
Yeah, see, I look at that as like, hey, it's a game. You're on a game show and you have
But
a
then
chance
again,
to win.
Graham would have.
I feel like that's just humanity, though. Like, that's where humanity comes into play. Like, you have all these mathematical expectations, and that's where humanity makes the difference. Like, going against all of that.
have like taken the first bribe opportunity. Like he's standing on
my
the
hand would be over the thing, 10 grand.
No, it would have been the first round, eliminate everybody in your row and take like $10. He's like, well, it's a couple coffees, you know.
Well, I mean, I think it all depends on your intention in going to the games. Like I think like there's one reason to do anything, and it's as a sign to the universe of who you are. You know, and like so like it's like if you went into the games with people you love, if you told your wife, hey, here's what I'm gonna do, here's my number, and guess what? If it means I'm gonna have to sacrifice people to do it, I'm gonna do it. If you haven't had those conversations and you want to show the world, or you want to show the world through your actions who you are, whether people are looking or people aren't, I think that's what we experienced with Dino, Tawana, Harrison, and Jeremy. Is this is who they are. Like if they got chosen to represent them, they gotta go, I'm not gonna let you down. Granted, it cost them $1 million, but I truly don't think any of those people regret it. I've talked to them all, which is just wild to think about. I think it's more of a testimony of
That is crazy.
who they are as a
Can't
person
imagine.
versus kind of what they wanted to do in that situation.
Do you think a lot of players weaponize sympathy in the game? For example, they kind of acted as though they were feeling sympathetic towards other people's plights, but in actuality, their mind was set on the $10 million or the $5 million goal.
I didn't think so at the time. Like I maybe I'm naive or maybe I'm too trusting, but I didn't think people had ulterior motives with sympathy. But like after the show, it was so fun to like have friends call me like, hey, asking me different questions about every episode. And I have a neighbor who's a psychologist who I'm good friends with, and she would ask me these questions, and she goes, you know, crying definitely is a tactic for narcissists or so and so to induce sympathy, like especially in situations where you're trying to get something. Maybe that's not yours, or you want to get something from someone else. And so like it made me kind of like look back at the episode and kind of go, wow, wait, did this person deliberately do this in order to get sympathy to keep moving on? I'm not sure.
See, that's the thing. It's like when a lot of people got eliminated, a lot of people would cry that they got eliminated. But at the same point, that's the objective of the game, is to continue on. And so I was wondering, it's like, okay, if I was in a game with other people and it's like, sure, we had a little bit of an alliance and everything like that. When you get out, like, I'm like, oh, no. So everyone feels sad for me. And they're like, okay, well, this guy's been through a lot. Let's, keep him around. We'll talk to him, get to know him. But in actuality, I'm just making it farther in the game.
Yeah, it's and even in my alliance, in the top 10, we had 4 people in our alliance. It was me, Patrick 930, Gage 974, and JC 566.
Which is crazy that they were able to take an alliance that far with how much chance was thrown into the game. Like that's wild to me.
And the ultimate aim is we all want to win, but it would be awesome for all 4 of us to get there and then battle it out. So it's like, we understand that people are going to get eliminated and it's going to suck. And like, for example, Patrick 930, my closest friend in the games, he gets eliminated and I'm like bittersweet. Like, I'm sorry to see you go, but like, okay, I'm in the top 6. I got to keep moving on.
And how was the experience different as a competitor versus as a viewer? Were there certain things that maybe you didn't notice when you were competing, and then you got, some secret drama or something maybe, or people were in cahoots that you didn't know about until you actually watched the video?
I'm curious too. Did you see any of the episodes before they air?
So episode 1 and 2, we got to see in a premiere. So we got to see a day before they aired. But all the other episodes, we saw it just when you did. When it drops at kind of midnight on Thursday was when I would watch it.
Are you watching it right when it drops?
I would try
moment it drops?
sometimes. Yeah. So sometimes my wife and I would like either try to stay awake or like I'd wake up in the middle of the night like, hey, do you want to watch it? But yeah, there was times I'd watch it at midnight. Sometimes I'd watch it in the morning. Sometimes I'd watch it during the day.
What was the most surprising thing watching it?
Just to see other people's perspectives. For me, I experience the game through my lens and through kind of my values. But to see other people's experiences was awesome. And I think the biggest takeaway, again, was seeing it as a game and kind of going, I respected or I understood the Habibi brothers' moves much differently watching it than I did kind of living it. I understood Akira's moves much different than I did living it. But it was just fun to see people who I got to know really well. Like once you get to the island, those top 50 people, we got to know super well. And to see their journey and how they played the game was like so fun as a viewer.
Was there anything that wasn't shown that you think should have been shown? Have you ever been in a position where you've needed to hire someone?
Oh my gosh.
The right, it's faster.
Oh, and have been.
You've ever hired any ice? My energy.
So don't to Indeed.com/ICH to claim your credit. The description, if that sounds like it. For those unaware, Upside gives you the power to earn more on the items or uplet
Show how
big of a deal this is. That's an extra 25 cents off every single gallon of gas in your first tank of purchase, just using the code ICED. Thank you so much again, Upside, for sponsoring this episode. And now let's get back to the podcast. Was there anything that wasn't shown that you think should have been shown?
I think there was a lot of character development and a lot of the game being played between the challenges. So at the meals, while people are hanging out, like, I think a lot of this game is social, so it doesn't show how people are building their friendships, their alliances, and yeah, it would be really, it would have been really neat to see some of the alliances, how they were formed, because there was more than were shown.
I thought it was really interesting when they had introduced Your Secret Alliance. I thought that was something that they could have leaned in a little bit more, because that introduced a whole different dynamic as a viewer to pay attention to be mindful of, and it just gave a lot better perspective. It was
I agree, but I think it'd also be really, really hard, right? Like, that is a massive amount of content that you would have to show. So the first thing that comes to mind is they would just have an attached like channel that would be able to show that, like an attached YouTube channel.
a lot more enjoyable. I liked it a lot.
Oh yeah, no, and I think when I think forward to season 2, and again, I'm no writer, but I think you'll see those alliances or those characters get developed earlier, because yeah, it was so juicy. Like that was my favorite episode. One of my favorite episodes to watch is you have the family reunion, which was like literally one of the top 5 moments of my life, and then you have this money grab and this like the first kind of tension of the game. And I think seeing more of that will allow people to understand characters much better.
What I find interesting is I feel like you have to, like, if you were an employer, you could look at Beast Games and take the final 20 competitors and put them on some sort of a curve of personalities, skills, intelligence, and they would be outliers in terms of a positive way. I feel like you have to be in terms of social skills, intelligence, everything. And I'm curious, because of the amount of self-elimination games that they had, if that could somehow throw a rock in that distribution. If instead they had more competitions, like I loved the intelligence one, the chance one was interesting, as well as the physical skills one. If more of the stuff were like that, more of the competitions were like that, by the end, if you'd have an even more refined group of people that, one could argue would be good to an employer, or just overall like an exceptional being.
Jack, you're spot on. Like one of the guys who got eliminated in episode 1, John 312, brilliant guy, great social game, really strong leadership, got eliminated because nobody in his row self-eliminated. He would have been kind of formidable at the end. Some other great competitors who were like very loyal, always helping each other. A friend, Justin 66, got eliminated in the first episode too. So yeah, I envision a world, and this is some of the feedback I've seen online too, is like, I want to see more skill based.
And social development as well. Like, that's why I liked the alliances. Like, a little bit of drama. Who can you be in cahoots with? Who could you be in secret cahoots with? The thing, I think it was Patrick, or the person that took the 5th or the 6th slot in the tower.
Yeah.
Like, that for me was one of the most exciting things, how he was able to outsmart everyone else and get voted in, and it surprised everybody. I'm like, that was such a low percentage chance for him to advance, but he was able to pull it off.
Yeah. And Patrick was the one. He's Puppet Master Patrick, who took $0. So he took a big risk and going, I think there's going to be upside to 0. He took a big risk and it didn't work out for him. Gage 974 is the one who did this kind of miraculous move on the towers, where he's like, I'm going to tell this person that I'm going to vote for them. I'm going to ask for their vote, and vice versa. Then he had this beautiful throwaway vote for Mikey 453, because he knew no one would vote for him. And when I was sitting there, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like brilliant.
Yeah.
And Gage, like it was neat to see someone like Gage step up. Yessie had brilliant moves in the 9th and 10th episode. So it's neat to see these characters kind of seize the moment they're in and crush it.
One of the most memorable moments for me was the coin flip, when the prize is going to be $5 million.
Yeah.
And then he brings out another $5 million if you flip the coin and guessed correctly.
I hope you know, like those are real U.S. dollars. This isn't fake money. So he wheeled in another literally $10 million in cash sitting there, and kind of when he opened the coin, there was zero chance I was going to do it. I'm like, it's just not worth it to get this far and lose over a coin flip. Um, I was never the best kind of in Vegas, betting, playing blackjack or roulette. And I'm like, I'm not going to come out of retirement and flip a coin. But I look over at Gage, and Gage became a good friend of mine. He's got these kind of beautiful blue eyes, and you see them sparkling. You see this grin that I've never seen. I'm like, Gage wants to do this. Gage really wants to do this. And Gage is so talented and kind of stepping into his own. I'm like, if he wants to do this, I want to make sure he does it. So I go over there and kind of chat with him, and I feel it. He wants to do it. And after kind of a little back and forth with him and Tawana, he reaches out, puts his hand on it. And what Jimmy said is the first person to touch this has to flip it. So there's no takebacks. And you could just see it in his eyes. He was feeling it. And he, back in the cubes, he flipped to stay in the game, tails. And so he holds it up and goes, I'm feeling tails again. And one of my favorite edits of the whole entire show is the coin flip, and you see the kind of the sand going through it. And then they pan back and they show Emma's face, then Tawana's face. And they're in total game mode, focused. And then I'm sitting here with my eyes half open with a little smirk because I'm just feeling so good for Gage. And he flips it and you hear the coin rattling and my eyes are still closed. And I hear Jimmy kind of sounding devastated, and I'm going, oh no, we didn't get it. And then it hits me. This is Jimmy's money. He is pissed because he just lost $5 million. I look at it and I'm like, I got goosebumps thinking about it.